We do it. What's going on, our oxygen-breathing humans? Roman here, chatting with
Mr. Antoine Coletta.
This is the Gainz Podcast, episode 20, coming at you. We're calling this one Cultivating a Healthy Mindset Around Training. You okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. We're going to be talking about some great stuff here, folks. We apologize. We have 2 Gainz Podcasts coming for you this week.
Are we, wait, we're releasing that this week?
Might as well, right? we could archive it. It was just like 18 to 20.
Yeah, this is all my fault. I had my bachelor party weekend. As you were probably watching this, the last weekend from this video that's coming out, and I left Friday morning, but I could have swore I updated it or uploaded it, and then Roman came to me and goes, "Hey, buddy, are we gonna post that?" And I'm just like, I think my memory went kind of in a fog throughout this that past weekend. So, and I thought I posted it. I edited it for you guys and everything. I got everything ready to go. I didn't upload it to YouTube or the audio versions as well. So
yeah. I've done that before where I said it as private just because
I know for a fact I edited it and saved a copy.
Yeah.
I just didn't drag it to YouTube.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I'm like, damn. But whatever, guys. I mean, we're here on episode 20, right? 2-0.
Killing it.
Crushing it. That's
5 months that the Gainz Podcast has been out for. The world's been in a better place for 5 months, people.
I think it's in its best place. I mean, besides what's going on in the rest of the world, I think, yeah, we could just say that.
They can still find reprieve in listening to the Gainz Podcast.
How bold of a statement did we just make right there?
I know.
So cultivating a healthy mindset around training.
Yeah.
This one's definitely something I think we've probably talked a little bit about, but I think most of the time we talk about it physically.
Yeah.
Right? We talk about how to be ready for training around injuries. How do you start training?
Yeah.
I don't think, and when you brought this up to me before we started this, it's just holy cow, you don't realize it. You definitely need to have a mindset to maintain mindset.
Head has to be in it too, yeah.
Exactly. So, did you want to start?
Yeah.
On your side. Look at that. Rominski is killing it today.
I put my foot on the gas pedal. We're speeding down route. I don't know any of the roads around here actually. What's the main highway we have in Chicago?
The Dan Ryan.
Yeah, we're speeding down the Dan Ryan, folks.
Don't drive on the Dan. If you're ever coming to Chicago for the first time, don't drive on the Dan Ryan after 10 p.m. Just a suggestion. Your life may be on the line.
Unless you are a risk seeker.
Risk.
And are looking to. No. It's not that bad, folks. Okay, so pretty much what I wanted to do today, as Antoine mentioned, we had discussed this topic over the weekend and how we were going to bring you the most quality content in a podcast. And essentially what I wanted to cover are kind of go over some questions. I created some questionnaires for us. I have 3 questionnaires. Whenever I do something like this, it mostly comes from some of the own internal or even potentially external cueing that I use for myself for assessing, because I've had sessions recently where yesterday, for example, I had programmed to do heavy squats and my back was a little tender. I've kind of been pushing squats recently. I've hit some nice PRs in my most recent training block.
Well, it's probably because you're not really worried about deadlifts, right, too?
Yeah.
For right now, at least,
not
so much.
I have it in once a week.
Yeah.
And then I do have in some sort of other accessory hip hinge movement, usually an RDL or an SLDL, straight leg deadlift. But we were running short on time, and I took a pivot. I was like, you know what, I still want to get in some good quad work. We only ended up having 30 to 40 minutes to work out, so I hit a couple of sets of walking lunges, a couple of sets of RDLs, where I really try to get my like mind inside of my hamstrings, really feel that out, get a nice like long, slow eccentric, and then some calf raises. I've had like some like plantar fascia issues recently, or at least that's what I like assume it to be. A little bit of like pain on the bottom of my foot. So just been trying to like rehab that. I've tried a couple of different things. So using some of the skills from some of our prior podcasts, sometimes you need to know when to kind of put the pedal to the metal, hit slam on that gas pedal because you're just feeling great, and then other times it's important to know like, man, I'm feeling kind of beat up. We deem this term auto-regulation. I was going to go over this like in a little bit, but might as well make a note of it. Most of what, at least I'm going to cover today or focus on, can be under like the broad term of auto-regulation. So I just pulled a definition off of Wikipedia, which can be defined.
It's not a real source either, because everyone in school, Wikipedia is just I don't know why Roman brought it up. I mean, he'd be deemed failed if he ever put this up in.
It's like a fake news website for sure.
Honestly, I never understood how like real Wikipedia is though, because don't they like pay people to like keep it maintained?
Yeah.
Because you can edit it all you want, but within like 5 minutes,
you can't really do that anymore.
You can?
No, not that I've seen. In the early 2000s or mid 2000s maybe, definitely. More recently, you can't do that and get away with it anymore.
We used to do that all the time at school when we like had free time.
Yeah.
We just go on Wikipedia, just make stupid stuff up.
And I'm not saying like folks like you might be like a brilliant like IT engineer, you might be like get behind the scenes. I still think that they have like either security measures or some sort of like alerts in place that when a page is edited by like an anon essentially, so like an anonymous user or like IP address, I think that they go in there and they send like their paid staff, which I think they're a nonprofit too, to be honest with you, because at the end of the year they're always asking for donations, which is really funny. I really donated to them. Sorry Wikipedia, really love your stuff, but haven't.
I think occasionally though when you visit it too, they'll ask for donations. Yeah. So it makes sense what you just said. Mm-hmm.
But anyways.
Auto-regulation definition.
Auto-regulation can be defined as a process within many biological systems resulting from an internal adaptive mechanism that works to adjust that system's response to a stimuli. Huh? So I want to break it down into layman's terms for what that means to you. If you're walking in the gym and you feel like shit, maybe you should drop the amount of volume. Maybe you should drop the intensity. It's really up to you to learn what works best for your body. Everyone's going to be a little bit different, so that's where that principle of individuality comes into place. I re-listened, or at least started re-listening to the Revive Stronger Deload roundtable with Steve Hall. So Revive Stronger Steve Hall, Menno Henselmans, Eric Helms, and Mike Isertel. And the interesting thing is, like, I think all three of them have different styles for how they deload, and how they essentially what a deload, or like by using auto-regulation, what you essentially are seeking to achieve is reducing the amount of fatigue. It could be mental, it could be physical fatigue, it could be a combination of both from the training stimulus, because you never want to get to the point where you're burnt out or you cause a severe injury. So off of that, I do actually have a questionnaire here for you folks. So let's see here. So it's just a series of questions that you can ask yourself. You can feel free to like write this down, and maybe we can include it in the show notes. I can like send you a doc on it. But I put cultivating a healthy mindset around training. We can use a straightforward questionnaire to determine whether it's appropriate to train. So first question, do you want to train today? Yes? No? If no, don't train.
What if you never want to train?
That's a great question. So maybe the motivations that you have aren't in the right place. So that's something for you to assess. Maybe sit down with a coach. Maybe sit down with a personal trainer. Maybe reach out to us and say, hey, I'm struggling to find like motivation to do this, or I'm struggling to find the ability to stay consistent with my workout program. Maybe it's just not exciting enough for you. And sometimes that'll happen. It might just take like small tweaks that make you like excited and energized for working out again. And if you come to the Gainz Podcast, you're probably looking to hear from maybe like a couple of bros, maybe a couple of guys that try and infuse their knowledge of like scientific principles towards like bodybuilding, towards powerlifting, towards just like working out, training in general, lifting weights, picking things up, putting them down, and how they're like broadly applicable in your lifestyle. If the answer is yes, will the training result in a net positive outcome for you? If that's what you're looking to achieve. If no, you can ask, is training filling a void? What is that void? Would this void be more filled more appropriately by other means? So, for example, actually I'll get into it in another questionnaire, so I'll jump to that afterwards. And then you can ask yourself, like, what motivates you to train? So that internal versus external stimulus, which I believe we covered in last podcast. So tune into the Gainz Podcast, episode 19, where we talked about...
The one that's been published, maybe not published.
Folks, it's going to blow your minds. We talk about internal, external stimuli and rewards, and how to maximize...
No, we're not talking about cookie rewards when you go to the bathroom for the first time.
What?
It just came to my head because it's like, that's what we used to do as a kid. Like, oh my gosh, like, you were quiet that whole time. You get a cookie.
Yeah.
You train 5 days in a row. You get a cookie.
Give yourself a cookie, folks.
On episode 9, we just talk about, or 19, we just talk about giving people cookies.
Pretty much, yeah. So if you're a baker out there and you're looking to level up your baking skills, tune into episode 19. All right, the next question there deals with soreness. If you've ever trained before, you're looking to train, you will deal or battle with soreness, and it's important to understand its role and like the consequences of how that like fits into the larger picture, which I do feel is, or I believe is a deeper part of cultivating a healthy mindset and a healthy understanding of training, because understanding how soreness plays a role, you might be able to use that to your advantage towards maybe like pushing out your training, leveling up your training, taking like a quick break off your training if need be. That's all part of auto-regulation, folks. So I made a scale, 1 to 10, how sore do you feel? 1 being not sore at all, 10 being so sore you couldn't get out of bed, and 5 being I'm sore, but most movement is not substantially restricted. So anything in there. So if you're sore in the bicep and performing any type of a bicep curl with, even no weight at all is restrictive, and you can't gain the same full range of motion, but you can still move your arm, etc., etc. You might be in like a 7 or 8. So at that point, that's really like the cutoff that I'd say is whether you can train or not. If you can't create a full contraction of the bicep or the upper arm, essentially bringing your forearm to your bicep, if you can't do that, then barring any injuries, if soreness is preventing that, you might want to take like an extra day off. Allow that soreness, that fatigue to come down a little bit. If it is less than that, if you're just a little sore, I know some people like John Meadows, who's an IFBB pro bodybuilder. He says that he doesn't like to train sore. I believe what he means is he doesn't like to train when he's like crazy out of hand sore. We've all been there before where we've maybe done a couple extra too many sets or reps of deadlifts, a little too heavy for the current training block, and the next morning we wake up, it's hard to tie our shoes. Would it make sense to deadlift that day? Absolutely not. You need more time to allow the musculature of your low back, of your hips, your posterior chain to heal up, essentially. Give it a few 3-4 days, and then maybe you need to actually tailor down the volume a little bit. Drop a set, drop a couple of reps, for example, so that soreness, I would say in general, the best amount of soreness you can receive is probably like 1 to 2 days. Renaissance Periodization and Dr. Mike Isertel has a lot to say about that. He pretty much uses the same metric. Anything more than that, you might be overshooting your per session recommended volume for that particular day. So that's the scale. Then you need to ask yourself, what benefit do you wish to confer from training today? Like, what are you looking to get? Like, an example is de-stressing, stimulating muscles for growth, maintaining, building, developing strength, working on aerobic capacity, staying active with a friend, doing something healthy for myself. So those are just examples of what what benefit you're looking to confer. Doing something, let's see, you might also want to ask the question, what is the likelihood I may get injured this session? I do want to note that this is a tricky question to ask and even trickier to gauge. It's not meant to make like anyone afraid of exercise, rather just as a pure assessment to whether you're ready to train and how hard you can train. So if that question ever comes into your mind, I don't want you to like then say like, oh, I'm going to injure myself if I train. Maybe you should ask the question, should I train a little lighter than I did? If you still want to train, because it's totally okay to still train. Should I train potentially less reps, less sets? So maybe take something out. That's where it's really important to take a nice long warm up to make sure you're testing the muscles, testing the tendons, etc., making sure the body's ready to go. I do want to make a note that weightlifting in general, appropriately applied, has a very low risk of injury. Very, very, very low. It's like, I listened to a roundtable on this recently, but it's like 2.1 or 3.1 incidences per like every 1,000 hours in the gym or something along those lines.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so it's like extremely, extremely low. One more questionnaire, and then we're going to let Antoine jump in. Calling this a well-being questionnaire. So I believe that's important to ask yourselves, how am I feeling today? If 1 is feels like dog shit, 2 is flipping fantastic, and 5 is I'm okay, like I'm doing all right. And then you can kind of fill in the rest there. If you're answering around a 1 or 2, then you might also want to jump back to the questionnaire 2, where you ask what benefit will training confer. If your response is deemed not healthy, such as I'm doing this to get back at him, her, them, meaning that like you like just broke up or something along those lines, you're looking to get back at somebody, that would be an example of an external stimulus, or like an external
Episode 19.
Yeah, episode 19, folks. An external reward that you're seeking. So you're looking for exterior validation from like, let's say like an X or something along those lines, where that process, I believe, is most important to like take place like inside of ourselves. I'm training to beat myself up or harm myself. It's not really going to make the training, the pain that you like feel emotionally go away. So whereas training can be like really important from like a de-stressing standpoint, that's also a situation where it might be important to contact maybe like a medical professional, like psychologist, for example, talk about some of the issues you might be experiencing. And yeah, I just pretty much want to make a note that training can serve any outcome that you'd like. Its benefits are tangible and intangible, meaning you can get stronger, get bigger, whatever your goal might be. But also you can develop those like internal like rewards as well. Like I feel more confident about my abilities to do task X, which could actually even be unrelated to like lifting. It could be like talking in front of a boardroom or something along those lines. Training can also be used to not focus on the pain we have in life, and hopefully we encourage you to train for health and not emotional avoidance or to mask pain or hurt that you have in your life. So I think that going through those certain questions, and you create your own questionnaires, that those were just some that I think in different life circumstances we're all going to face certain hardships. If you can come to like training, working out, like staying active from a positive place, a place of like self-betterment, I think you will garner a much more beneficial reward at the end of the day, as opposed to if you're coming to it from like a negative standpoint. There might be other better avenues. I'm not saying that it's not important to like train, or that like training might not help. Training might be like the number one de-stressor that's kind of keeping you like active and keeping your like mental health in check, type deal. So it might be important to contact a medical professional in that situation.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you came up with a questionnaire, because like I think that's great, because like in a general sense, like you could always say like I'm good.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people do that. But, like, if you do break it down, like, maybe something's thrown off. Maybe just pushing back the workout the next day, the week after, wouldn't be a bad, problem to have. Like, because I did, like queuing in, because, some of this just might overlap, so I don't want to talk about too much, but, like, like, I put down, like, if your mindset's not there or you're not prepared mentally, if you take training as a whole, it's kind of like work. If you're, like, even if you're having a bad day, or if, like, you lose somebody or something happens, like, when you miss work, like, do you really, like, does it really affect your career? It's kind of like working out and training. Like, if you miss, like, one workout, like, I mean, back in the day, I mean, shit, some of the stuff I didn't apply, like, it just was like go, 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 where you do have to step back a lot of times. I think that comes more along when it comes to lifting for a great time. You start to understand it. Or if you seek information like the Gainz Podcast, where we could kind of talk it through, where it's like makes sense in an aspect of, like, hey, if you're new to training, or, like, not new, but, like, you've been doing it for a while, but, like, taking that time off is, like, crucial for sometimes in training. So, like, I wanted to put that out there, like, training, if you're gonna do it forever, why even risk, like, hurting yourself physically too? Because I do mention too as well, like, if you're not right mentally, like, coming in with a bad mindset, you might fail physically, and more problems can occur, right? So it's not like you got to put hand in hand together. I mean, we what I mentioned earlier, like, we haven't talked about, like, mindset. We have. It just we prominently just did, like, physical stuff. I mean, episode 19, we kind of go into it. Like, he was talking about the external rewards. But Roman didn't mention, he also mentioned he was an Instagram model in episode 19. So he does a lot of external reward stuff. So, again, I'm going to mention it. If you do see that, please message Roman right away and tell him to stop doing that for the external rewards. Because I think he has a better goal in sight, but he keeps forgetting. So if you just send him that friendly reminder, maybe once a week, once a day, just blow him up whenever you can.
For the gram, if I got, like, messages like that, I would die. That'd be so funny.
I'm just going to try to do what Eric Trexler does to Greg Knuckles. So, and that kind of goes into, like, where does it all begin? Like, where does the first step where you're making that goal? Where does it begin when it comes to just physical training, in a sense? Just think about it both ways. There's probably other things too, but, it just, we're probably not going to mention, or haven't mentioned it yet. And honestly, if, here, where was it at? Because I'm going back and forth now. Cause,
I jumped around a lot.
No worries. So with when I mentioned, like, an unhealthy mindset might lead to injuries, like, yes, Roman did say, like, injuries are very low, but, like, I've experienced it, like, bad breakups, like, bad time, like, arguments with family, where I would go to the gym, like, right away.
Yeah. Or
even, like, and then I wanted to speak about two different mindsets about, like, bodybuilding shows and, like, powerlifting competitions. We'll probably get into, like, the bodybuilding experiences sooner or later. But, like, even, like, back in the day when, like, it was, I think when it was in 2016, the last show was in October. So if you think about it, October, you're getting close to, like, Thanksgiving, Halloween, aka Roman's birthday. Roman just lets the U.S. use Halloween as an excuse, just so you guys know. I probably mentioned that before too.
It's like a national.
Yeah, it's a national. Roman's birthday, but, like, Christmas, New Year's Eve. I just remember, I think it was Thanksgiving or Christmas. Like, this is when my parents were, my mom was using my truck, and I pretty much made like, it had to be Christmas. I made like Christmas cookies with my dad like all day long to like prep us for Christmas and all that stuff. And I was eating a bunch, eating so much. And that was like 2 months after my competition. And I literally went to the gym twice that day. Twice.
Wow.
Like literally I did like an AM session and a PM session. To a person that's, you know, natural and who doesn't eat as much as like for the weekly intake and all that, like there's no way I was like recovered, even for like a second workout that day. And I just remember going to the gym. I think I brought my dad with me just to like watch and hang out because he has a heart condition, so he can't really he can't really do so much. He can't do resistance training. And I just remember like leaving the gym like not even physically drained, just like mentally drained because I stressed that much because I ate so much food for one day.
Yeah.
So like even like the people out there, like I know we've talked about it, but like people with like, you know, that are dieting or like people coming off a bodybuilding show, like your mindset, like you need to start thinking more of like, hey, it's okay that I'm gaining weight, or hey, it's okay, I can, you know, like I can enjoy myself once out of the year.
Yeah.
So that being said, like when it comes to the mindset, like, you know, Roman was talking about the training side of things. I do want to kind of, in my opinion, it's like there's like two different mindsets for like powerlifting and bodybuilding at least. I think more of like the bodybuilding side, you do have to like listen and, well, not saying that powerlifting isn't, but like you do have to kind of feel it out, like see where you're going. You have to be like kind of one with the weights. Like you have to like when Roman was talking about like warming up to like make sure like your hamstrings are ready, your low back's ready. Like you in bodybuilding, like I think it's so important with like hypertrophy to not only like build the muscle, but like to like imagine like I want to grow. Because like if you're competing in bodybuilding, like what's going to be more beneficial than your positive thinking that you're already building because you're curling, you're getting a good squeeze, you know, you're not sore, and you're coming in there with like a fresh head of things. Whereas like powerlifting, the mindset is like, hey, squat, bench, deadlift. You know, mindset is let me get those numbers. I want to get those numbers. That's all. I'm a machine. Input, output. Like Roman mentioned a couple of times probably. But like, you know, obviously we're taking that with, you know, a grain of salt because like, as Roman was saying, like, if you're not listening to your body and you're not auto-regulating, then you're going to be also going into those problems like, you know, like I was doing if I ate too much, I think training would be the answer automatically. And I'm going to lose so much weight doing 2 sessions in a day where I can eat 6,000 calories in a day. But in reality, like we've mentioned it probably before too, like training calories when it comes to resistance trainings is not really that much. Yeah. Like you're like in Roman does this too all the time. Like he goes on MyFitnessPal, he puts like he walked and he eats those calories back. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like well that was a joke. We did do an episode on Kaiko model. So again, if you want to learn more about that joke, but in serious, like we do have an episode. I think that was like episode 6 or 7. Yeah. So pretty much like overall factor 2, like to kind of go into a different mindset of things, like you visualize, like I always like to visualize myself as like the end goal, like hey, visualize like what I have to do throughout the whole process, like what's going to make me the better contender in everything. Like you might think that about like your career, your friendships, like do that, like what's most important to you when it comes to that training side. And like also I did want to mention, because we're almost ending in time, if you're finding yourself like that there might be, instead of like saying external rewards, I don't know if this is like a thing, but like external motivation, I think too much of that can be kind of harming. Yeah. And like, and what I mean is like, you're watching YouTube videos, you're constantly going on Instagram, you're seeing Roman, aka the Instagram model, looking fabulous 24/7, and you're like, why do I not look fabulous 24/7? Because that's not reality. Like, reality is you're gonna have shit days, you're gonna have good days, plain and simple. But like, as we're talking about, like visualizing and making sure everything's right, that's where it's gonna meet in the middle and be that balance. So like, if you're finding, like I've done that a lot. I don't know if you've done it, but like I would just search like a bunch of YouTube videos on like freaking Arnold motivation, Dan Green, if you guys are familiar with powerlifting motivation, like staying efforting motivation, like all that stuff. Like I think too much of that is going to be harm, because I feel like you need to find that motivation inside.
Yeah.
And if you're finding yourself doing that so much, I think, like Roman was talking about auto-regulating, maybe you should just take a step back, relax a little, chill, go on a mini vacation, go on like a 3-day, like, or even go on the weekend, like just drive somewhere, just kind of relocate for the weekend and just like kind of step back. And that's not a problem either. I mean, like Roman and I do that stuff all the time. Like, I mean, we just, I mean, I don't know about you with the motivation videos, but like when I was like bodybuilding, that was like the one thing I would consistently do. Well, I was competing for a bodybuilding show, so like I had to do like a certain amount of cardio. And like, when I killed myself with stair stepper, like I never did stair stepper again, because it reminded me of like I had to watch like motivation videos to do it, and it was like not a good source of like mental capacity when it came to that cardio.
Yeah.
So
that would be an interesting thing to go over, because like I do know a lot of people that like have similar stories. I've never really like personally needed that. I mean, I've listened to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever really gotten like a great source of motivation. It's always just come from like the internal for me. But like that being said, that doesn't mean that like every time that I've gone like worked out that it's like been healthy.
Yeah.
I've done certain things where like I've gone for like 3, 5, 7 mile run, and then like I'm like, nope, that wasn't like enough calories burned, and I'd go for another run, and then I'd still work out that day. Like I've done like really messed up stuff like that, where like I've like restricted meals and stuff like that, and I've gone down to like unhealthy body weight. So the purpose of this podcast was essentially to go over like some strategies that we use. That's like pretty much like what the questionnaire was based off of for me. But mainly, like at the end of the day, I think it is important to ask yourself the question, like, is what I'm doing, am I doing this because I believe this is going to be healthy for me, and this is going to be good for me, and is going to provide some degree of benefit? Because when we train, like sometimes like we beat ourselves up in the gym, and sometimes that's what we need to do to like grow muscle, like achieve our fitness goal, et cetera, et cetera. But if also you find that you're doing it as a form of avoidance, if you're doing it like trying to fill a void, or because like you're, emotionally like in pain or something like that, it still might be the right thing for you to do in that moment, because it might be that thing that's like letting you like hold on. But like long term, you might want to seek like a medical professional. You might want to seek like a psychologist. You might just want to grab a friend and say like, man, like whenever you're free, can we like go for a walk and talk, or just go for a drive or something along those lines? Just having somebody like, kind of bounce off like what's going on inside you and like how you're feeling, etc. Because sometimes in life we do just like end up becoming like input-output machines, sometimes even by accident, and we don't realize that we might be like alienating people that we love in our life and whatnot. So mainly just looking at, because I don't think that there's like a concrete like definition for like what healthy could be. Yeah. But I think that most people can identify like this is healthy or this is not healthy. So just kind of going down those questions and trying to cultivate that healthfulness in your life, because I think at the end of the day, when like everything's said and done, you're gonna feel much better about yourself and like what you've achieved, or the direction you're heading in, by pursuing it more from like a place of love and kindness to yourself, as opposed to like a place of like hate and pain.
That's awesome. Yeah, this is a good one. I was really excited to do it and like share the personal side of things as well. But anyways, thanks guys for watching. Episode 20 down in the books. Tell your brothers, tell your sisters, tell your cousins, tell your second cousins tell their second cousins.
Is that their fourth cousin?
We'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Bye, folks.